guys, what is up? My name is Megan. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and welcome to this month's round of Candyland Picks My TBR, which is my TBR game. And we are already in the month of July, which means we are more than halfway through the year. It's exciting stuff. We are getting into the prime of summer, says the girl wearing a jumper. Ignore me, it's cold with the AC on. But if you are new here or have not heard of my TBR game, I will leave a Candyland playlist down below so that you can get acquainted with the game, but it's very easy. Essentially, each color on the board corresponds to a different prompt. I will put a little infographic right here explaining what color means, like what color is what prompt. And if I spin on the same color 3 times within the game, I add an extra spin. If I do not complete my TBR by the end of the month, I also add an extra spin, and the aim of the game is to reach the end of the board so that I can give myself a treat, like for example, buy a book. Those are all the rules. So did I complete my June TBR? I did not. I did read a bunch of incredible books in June, which you guys will be able to hear more about in my wrap-up, but not all of them were on my TBR, which means I did not read the entirety of my TBR. So instead of starting off at 6 spins for the months, we are going to start with 7. And without further ado, let's hop on into spin number 1. Brought us to yellow, and as per the little photo I showed you guys, yellow is actually the F1 readathon jar, which is this adorable jar right here. Now, if you have not heard of the F1 readathon, it is a readathon I found through Instagram. I will leave it in the description below, and it basically took a bunch of like iconic F1 moments and F1 prompts and made them bookish. It runs from March to November, which is like the F1 season, and it's just a really fun part to fun way to combine so many hobbies. So we've done a few so far. Let's pick one from the jar. Let's go for this one right here, which is prompt number 14. Yeehaw, we're in Texas. Read a book with country/cowboy vibes. I don't know if my camera will let me show you guys. That is a terrible way of showing you, but this is the prompt. I feel like I'm pretty limited for this one, so let me look at what I have and I will be right back. So for this prompt, I feel like I didn't have that many options, but I also went with the most obvious one, and that is Flawless by Elsie Silver. This is the first in the Chestnut Spring series. It is currently like 4 books long. I own the 3 first ones and I still have not read the series. This is actually a book that was gifted to me from Amélie Boucher. I will leave her channel down below. She is great. This is a dual perspective small town romance with country vibes. It essentially follows the daughter of a bull riding coach and a bull rider. It is a forbidden romance because the rule is that he kind of can't have that kind of relationship with the coach's daughter, and it has the only one bed trope. It's dual perspective. I feel like I'm going to love this, but the hype is also very scary, and I think that's kind of what put me off reading the series, because everybody and their mom has read all of the books and raved about all of them. So it's scary to go into, but I have high hopes I'm going to enjoy this, and the covers for these speak to me. So it was the obvious choice. A good one nonetheless, and again, thank you, Emily, for this wonderful gift. On to spin number 2. Number 2 actually brought us to the end of the game, so it's essentially a free pick for this prompt. I will most likely come back at the end of the video and let you guys know what I pick, depending on how the rest of this TBR goes. So let's move on to spin number 3. Number 3 brought us to a double green, and the double green is another jar, and this one is just a bunch of random prompts to help me find a book. So without further ado, let's go for this one here, which is Owned more than 2 years. Let me show you guys so you know I'm not cheating. I feel like I get this prompt all the time because they do get recycled back into the jar. Let me find a book. Okay, so for this one, I decided to go for a middle grade, and I went with A Dragon Mountain by Katie and Kevin Sang. This is the first, and I believe like a 6-book series that I had once tried to read, I believe back in 2020 when it originally released, and I wasn't really in my middle grade era back then, so I kind of put it down and never picked it back up. But the spin-off series is coming out soon, and I'm super interested in this entire world, so it's time I pick it back up. This specific book follows a main character named Billy. He is 12 years old, and his parents are sending him to a camp in China. It's like a summer camp, and he's not really looking forward to it because he would rather be at home. However, once he gets to camp, he actually finds this like secret cave or something of the sorts that has 4 warrior dragons in it, and the blurb says the dragons have been waiting for him, so I have a feeling it is a chosen one trope, and it gives me kind of like Percy Jackson vibes as well as Skandar and the Unicorn Thief, which I will always gladly take. So you know what? I am very happy to be getting to this one. Let's move on to spin number 4. Spin brought us to a double green again, which means kind of dangerous territory because one other green and we have another spin. So again, let's pick from the jar. Let's go with, oh my god, how many of them are there? Let's go with the small one right here, which is a 1-word title. Oh god. Okay, nothing comes to mind, but I'll figure it out. So, for this one, I thought it would be fun to make you guys pick. I will be putting up a poll on the community posts. I have been loving letting you guys pick my reads, and we are going to pick between either Coach by Devney Perry. This is a football single dad romance, small town, second chance. I've talked about how hyped I am for this book on my channel before. It is dual perspective as well, and it is a pretty new release, and I feel like everybody has been hyping it up, so I have been excited for this, and it's 1 word, so it fits. And the other one is actually Untouchable by Talia Hibbert. This is the 2nd book in the Ravenswood series. I read the 1st book in the series a while back, and I absolutely loved it, but I never kept going. Don't ask me why, but I do own books 2 and 3, and Untouchable is also 1 word. This, I believe, is also dual perspective. Let me check. Maybe it's not. Oh, that kind of makes me sad. No, I don't think it's dual perspective, but it essentially follows this girl who was a nanny, and I believe she, or maybe not. No, she did something at work that was like unspeakable, and now nobody wants to hire her except this dude who has a child and hires her to be her nanny, but he's falling for her and she doesn't want to do anything to do with it because obviously she's been burned in the past by her employment, but he's very motivated to get his girl. It's single dad. It's the battle of the single dads. So you guys will let me know, please and thank you, either in the comments or on my community post, which one I should pick up for the month, and I will read that one. So very hyped either way. I love myself a good single dad romance. Can't go wrong. Let's go to the next spin. Was technically pink, but then when we followed that little peanut, we ended up falling on a red space, which means we are doing the red prompt, and that is indie published. Now, I usually read indie published romances, and I am very down for that this month, specifically because I found this book on Amazon. I read the blurb, and I immediately purchased it without having heard anyone say anything about this book, because I am convinced that this is it, you guys. This This is like what I'm hoping will bring as much joy as what Sunny Disposition did for me a few months back. This is the Pucking Wrong Number by C.R. Jane. This is a dual perspective romance, and essentially the plot line of this is that we follow a main character who is texting with this boy who got a wrong number, and basically they don't know who they are, like they're not exchanging identities, or at least I know she doesn't know who he is, and our main female character just moved into a new town. She's not adjusting, right? And so she's kind of like holding on to dear life with those text messages with that person she doesn't know. Turns out he is a very famous hockey player, and he's like falling madly in love with her and wants to make everything in her life better. And so it's gonna be their romance, and it just hits all the tropes. A hockey romance, for one, is something I will always be obsessed with. Anonymous texting, I keep going on and on about on my channel because it's one of my favorite tropes, and just like he looks like he's obsessed with her, and I will let you know how I feel about this, but I could not be happier to be able to put this on my TBR. Let's move on to the next spin. The next spin brought us to another green yet again, and so that means we are picking from the random TBR jar, but it also means we are adding a spin, so we are now up to 8 spins for this TBR. Let's go for this one here. 10-second pick. Okay. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Let me focus. I have set a timer for 10 seconds. And I need to pick a book. And I feel like this will either go my way or not. Why am I so stressed? I'm gonna give myself... like, there's a bunch of clutter here, which you guys can clearly see, but let's give myself a head start. 1, 2, 3, go. Made it. First off, I hope I didn't flash you guys because I am a tall girl and even shorts kind of look short sometimes, so I don't know what that footage is gonna look like, but during those 10 seconds I decided to go with Zodiac Academy, as told by the boys. I have talked about this series countless times now, and I've only read the first book. Now I know this is technically not the book I should be reading because it's like the 9th book that was published, but I explained my reasoning for why I'm going to go ahead and read this one before I read books 2 and 3, which I now own. Sold some more stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and so before I go further into the series, I am still going to read this book. So this is like the first book retold from all of the male perspectives. Quick recap of Zodiac Academy. It is a romantasy storyline. It has like 10 books that are going to be published, and it follows 2 twin sisters, Darcy and what is the other name? Tori. And it's like them learning that they're fae and they're super powerful and they're supposed to be like the inheritors of this throne. They didn't know it existed. Their parents are dead. They're thrown into this chaotic world. These boys hate and love them at the same time. It's a whole thing. There's a bunch of like typos and the writing isn't the best, but it's one of the most addicting series ever so far. So I'm more than incredibly excited to be able to read this month as well. Moving on to the next spin. Prompt brought us back to another red, which is indie published, and honestly one of my favorite prompts. Who doesn't love a solid indie published book? Now for this I'm kind of torn between 2. Honestly, one of them is Neutral Zone. I do think I am going to have a vlog up in July where I talk about why I'm so interested in this book. I don't end up picking it up for that specific vlog, but I'm still very much in the mood to read this. This, again, is a hockey romance with the anonymous trope, and then they meet in real life. He's obsessed with her. I'm obsessed with that trope. So this is one strong contender, and the other one, if I can hold it up properly, is Tutoring the Player by Rebecca Genshark. This is, I think it's a sport romance. Yeah, again, a hockey player, and essentially it's the shy girl who tutors the like very popular hot hockey player, and they fall in love. As we can see, there's kind of a theme here, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. You know what? I think I'm gonna add both of these to my TBR, one for indie romance and the other one for free pick. Now obviously if I don't want to get to one of these two during the month, my free pick can change at any time, but I think I'm going to slot in these two for those picks for now because I cannot decide. Now let's move into our next spin and hopefully our last one. We have made it to our final spin and we fell on a double orange, and orange is self-destruct. Now if you have not seen these books will self-destruct in 6 months, I will leave that video in the description and the cards for you guys. But it's essentially a video where I picked 6 different books that I need to read before the end of 6 months or they are off my shelf. I did not read either of the ones I picked in last month's TBR, so we're bringing one back, and I am going to attempt again to read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune because I own this and his newest release, and like I can't have 2 of his books unread on my shelves, and I feel like this is going to be great comfort throughout this month. This is a fantasy, and it's essentially about a man who is supposed to die, and it's all about like the in-between, and I think our main character has a lot of regrets, and so it's him kind of dealing with all of that before going to the afterlife, something of the sorts. Now I hope I get the same comfy cozy vibes I did with The House in the Cerulean Sea. That is like what I'm counting on. It does have similar vibes, but I haven't heard as much like glowing reviews for this one as I have for Under the Cerulean Sea. So we shall see what I think, but again, I am hopeful because I did love The House in the Cerulean Sea. How many times can I say that in one video? So those were all the spins. Now I would like some more middle grade to be read this month because I'm in a middle grade mood, but I'm also in like a thriller mood, a fantasy mood. Like I'm kind of all over the place, so I feel like this TBR is a great way to start. Obviously there are a bunch of books releasing this month and maybe I'm going to want to get to a few of those. We'll see what happens. I'm starting to go to work again in July, so fingers crossed I can get through all of this. So the final TBR is these books right here, and also the one you guys are going to vote on. So please leave your thoughts in the comments below or go vote on my poll once it's up. It should be up by the time this video is. And wish me luck with this very heavy romance reading month, which I will never complain about. Bye guys, happy reading!